Somalia's government denies U.S. claims of seizing food aid as U.S. suspends assistance to the country. More protests and condemnations trail Israel's recognition of Somaliland in U.S. military operations in Venezuela. Plus, M23 rebels hold funeral for victims of drone strike in eastern DR Congo. Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Joke Rogers here in Lagos. Somalia's government has rejected U.S. allegations that authorities in Mogadishu destroyed an American-funded World Food Program warehouse and seized food aid intended for vulnerable civilians. The claims prompted the U.S. State Department to suspend all assistance to Somalia's federal government, citing a zero-tolerance policy on the diversion or waste of life-saving aid. A senior U.S. official alleged that warehouse at Mogadishu was demolished on the orders of President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud without donor notification. Somalia's foreign ministry has denied the accusation, saying the food remains under World Food Program custody and that port expansion work has not disrupted humanitarian operations. However, opposition lawmakers are calling for an independent investigation, warning the move is especially troubling as the country faces worsening drought conditions. The United States provided about $770 million in aid to Somalia last year, though it remains unclear how much will be affected by the suspension. Anti-Israel protests have erupted in Mogadishu in the meantime, following a landmark visit by Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Saar to Somaliland earlier this week. Demonstrators took to the streets chanting slogans against Israel and carrying placards rejecting what they called any attempts to undermine Somalia's unity and sovereignty. Protesters accuse Israel of seeking to divide the country after formally recognizing Somaliland's independence in December. Some demonstrators warned of escalating anger, saying opposition is no longer limited to peaceful protests. Youth leaders also linked the move to wider regional grievances, including the conflict in Palestine. During his one-day visit, Mr. Saar met Somaliland's president and senior officials, marking the first such engagement since Israel's recognition. Israel is the first country to recognize Somaliland, a decision condemned by the Arab League and criticized by several nations at the United Nations. Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdulati has reaffirmed Cairo's commitment to international law and territorial integrity following Israel's recognition of Somaliland. Speaking at a joint press conference in Cairo with the European Union's foreign policy chief, Mr. Abdulati described the move as illegal and illegitimate. He said Egypt, alongside Djibouti, issued an immediate joint statement rejecting the decision. The foreign minister noted that Egypt's stance reflects a unified African position agreed at the African Union Peace and Security Council, warning that the recognition poses a threat to Africa's unity and security. He adds that Egypt will continue working with African and Arab partners, as well as the EU, the United States, and other international actors to prevent further recognition. A coalition of South African trade unions, political parties, and civil society organizations is picketing outside the United States Embassy in Pretoria today, protesting what they describe as a U.S. military invasion of Venezuela and the alleged kidnapping of President Nicolas Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores. The Congress of South African Trade Unions, COSATU, says it backs the demonstration, arguing that Washington's actions amount to a violation of international law and Venezuela's sovereignty. Protesters are also calling on the South African government and the international community to intervene diplomatically and uphold the principles of non-interference and respect for national sovereignty.
So today's picket is just a part of all the protest action that is happening across the globe, calling for the release of the president of Venezuela, President Maduro, along with his spouse. So today we're just here outside the U.S. Embassy to remind them that every country has a sovereignty, and if it's dissatisfied by whatever thing, it needs to tap into existing institutions to lodge its grievances and not exercise its military might by going around victimizing countries.
As the Socialist Party of Azania, we are here to forge solidarity with the oppressed of the working class. We are saying the American imperialist and fascist regime must hands off Venezuela. We know the American imperialists, they are there just to extract oil. There is nothing that the Venezuelan president is corrupt of drugs and whatever. And what they are doing in Venezuela, they did it in Congo. What they are doing in Congo, they did it in Palestine. And even currently in South Africa, we don't own our own land.
This march today is a demonstration at the embassy of the USA to demonstrate our dissatisfaction, our cry as the communists in South Africa, following the illegal arrest and interference of the USA in the Venezuelan affairs, national affairs. That interference is really based on one thing: the extraction of the resources of Venezuela by the USA, which is a classical colonial attitude, which is, of course, by this particular protest, we are demonstrating against.
Well, the Alliance of Sahel States, a bloc made up of the military-led governments of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger Republic, have sharply condemned what it calls the United States acts of aggression against Venezuela. In a statement released on Thursday, the alliance described the U.S. operation over the weekend to seize Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife as a serious violation of international law, Venezuelan sovereignty, and the United Nations Charter. The Sahel bloc has called on the United Nations Security Council to fully assume its responsibility to maintain international peace and security, urging clear condemnation of Washington's action and the restoration of legality in international relations. It also reaffirmed its commitment to a world order based on sovereign equality, respect for international law, and the peaceful resolution of disputes. The United States Special Forces raid in Caracas, which reportedly knocked out power in parts of the capital, resulted in President Maduro and his wife being transported to New York, where they have pleaded not guilty to narco-terrorism and related charges. Let's get back to South Africa, where a private sector ended the country's private sector ended the year on a weak note, with business activity contracting at its fastest pace in 11 months. A new survey data from S&P Global shows that subdued demand weighed heavily on companies in December, pushing the Purchasing Managers Index down to 47.7 from 49 in November. Our South Africa correspondent, Innocent Samusa, has more.
Well, business activity in South Africa slowed sharply in December due to a combination of domestic and global pressures. On the other hand, weak consumer demand, driven by high interest rates and the rising cost of living, has really reduced spending across the economy. Now, the ongoing electricity supply challenges and infrastructure constraints have continued to disrupt production and increase operating costs for businesses. We do know that at the same time, a slow growth in key global markets have weighed on export, while elevated borrowing costs have discouraged investment and the expansion of the economy. Now, policy uncertainty, on the other hand, has also made businesses cautious, leading to many delaying hiring and capital spending for many businesses in the country. But we do know also that, on the other hand, seasonal factors also played a role, as many businesses scaled back operations at the year end, while subdued businesses' confidence limited the usual rebound associated with the festive period. Now, colleague, analysts across the board are saying that a sharp December contraction suggests underlying structural challenges remain unresolved, of course, raising concerns about economic momentum in the early months of 2020. 2026. I'm Innocent Samosa reporting for Channels Television News in Bushbuckridge, Aikenhook, South Africa.
The AFC M23 armed group has held a collective funeral in Goma for 22 people killed in a drone strike earlier this month in Masisi in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. The ceremony held at the Unity Stadium in North Kivu's provincial capital was marked by grief as coffins were laid out before mourning families. Relatives of the victims described the deep human costs of a conflict that has plagued the region for decades. Medical charity Médecins Sans Frontières says at least 42 people, including women and children, were injured by shrapnel in the attack. The AFC M23 rebellion has accused the Congolese army of carrying out the strike, an allegation the government has neither confirmed nor denied. The United Nations mission in the DRC has called for an independent investigation, condemning the use of drones and any attack that harms civilians or civilian infrastructure. And here in Nigeria, the Lagos state government has reiterated its commitment to strengthen collaboration between federal and state parastatals operating within the state. This was echoed by the Secretary to the State Government, Abimbola Salihu, who represented Governor Sanwo-Olu at the maiden edition of the Lagos State and Federal Parastatal Summit held in Alausa-Ikeja. She says the ultimate objective is to institutionalize a lasting culture of coordination beyond the summit, supported by streamlined processes, innovation, and technology-driven governance.
It's the very first Lagos State Federal Parastatal Summit at the Adeyemi Bere Auditorium, attended by the Secretary to the State Government, State Head of Service, and all heads of parastatals in Lagos at the federal level. The event, organized by the Lagos State Government Parastatals Monitoring Office, provides an opportunity for government at both levels to collaborate and enhance efficiency across parastatals.
This summit is about strategic and timely coming at a moment when the demands of governance increasingly require collaboration, coordination, and collective responsibility.
The State Head of Service, Olabode Agoro, described the summit as a significant step towards redefining service delivery and restoring trust in public institutions.
I reaffirm our commitment to a professional, ethical, and performance-driven public service, one that supports government developmental agenda and delivers real value to the people we serve.
One of the keynote speakers, Professor Larry Bale, believes that collaborative governance is highly needed for effective service delivery.
Government that collaborates on systems based on digital system must also collaborate on human capital. And on quarterly basis, the PMO office should be giving reports to identify some things that were assumed at this summit, but we may no longer be working after about a few quarters. So we must have mechanism for follow-up and review. Sustainable collaboration is not an event, it's a discipline. We must therefore move from dialogue from this summit to action.
Delivering the governor's address is the Secretary to the State Government, Abimbola Salihu, who explained that governance can no longer be pursued in silos but through alignment.
In today's governance environment, governments are no longer judged by intentions alone, but by measurable outcomes. This summit provides an opportunity to critically examine our operational challenges, identify areas of overlap, and agree on practical mechanisms to strengthen collaboration between the federal and the state parastatals operating within the Lagos state.
This new phase of alignment between Lagos and federal parastatals will go a long way in achieving the federal government's renewed hope agenda that will be beneficial to all Nigerians.
And still to come on the program. Senegalese Prime Minister urges deeper partnership with Mauritania as relations enter a golden era. That's in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Senegal's Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko has called for deeper and stronger cooperation between Senegal and Mauritania during a joint press conference with his Mauritanian counterpart, Mokhtar DJ in Dakar. Mr. Sonko said the two neighbors are bound by geography and shared interests, stressing that collaboration is the only viable path forward. He, however, warned that acting separately could fuel unhealthy competition, while working together would bring mutual benefits. He adds that both governments have agreed to cooperate closely to ensure their shared borders do not become a source of tension. Discussions focused on border management, the exploration and responsible use of natural resources, and boosting bilateral trade. And for over 3 months, Chinyenwa Judith Amadi has been on her bike traveling from Nigeria to Europe to raise awareness about cancer and raising funds for treatment. Well, she's back in Nigeria now and has been making the media rounds. Our Foreign Affairs correspondent Amrachi Ubani reports.
And with that, Chinyenwa Judith Amadi, known better as Chibeda, arrives at the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission office in Ikeja, Lagos. The petite avid driver parks in the compound and then comes into the warm embrace of the NIDCOM chairman, Abike Dabiri Erewa, who engages her in earnest conversation, after which they head inside for more serious talk.
We saw you on some program on channels, and it was like, oh my God, because I have to get your social media handle and follow you.
Thank you.
We're proud of you.
Since October 2025, Chibeda has been on the road, literally. A Honda Africa twin motorcycle, her faithful companion, on a mission to raise awareness about cancer.
I have lost loved ones to cancer. I have loved ones who have survived cancer, and also a personal experience to someone who is currently fighting cancer, because she's someone I haven't spoken to in a very long time. Then when I reached out to her, she told me she stopped chemo and she was in her 6th month and she can't afford to. So I started helping her from my own personal funds. By the time we finished, and I realized that there were more people like her who can't afford to finish their chemotherapy. And I said to myself, I have some savings left. Why don't I use and embark on this journey so I can help more people like her?
Everything was going well, she said, until she got to Burkina Faso, where an accident forced her to suspend her journey. But thanks to the biking community near Ouagadougou, she got back on track.
When I got to Burkina Faso, my first contact when I had the accident was a biker in Burkina Faso. The incident happened at 3:30. When I reached out to them at 5:30, 6:30, same day, the body got into my location. And this is 300 kilometers to the capital. And that's where the person was coming from. So they got me, they made sure I had an x-ray that same night. I had the surgery that same night, 12 p.m. wasn't I had the surgery because of the nature of the injury. Because if I had stayed a day longer, maybe it would, you know when the skin is, So they made sure I had the surgery that night. And all the way to most of the African country, which is Senegal, I had supportive biking community. And that was where, from Morocco upwards, I was on my own. But yes, the biking community, they've been very, very supportive.
She made it all the way to France, where she faced the terrible winter weather, aborting her plans to get to the Netherlands and elongating her travel plans.
At the point when I got to France, I cried. And at the same time, I thought, the plan was to get to Netherlands. Why am I stopping in France? I said, okay, let me push myself a little bit and see if I can get there. And just, because I see this as a struggle for cancer warriors. Like all my journeys I've been having on this trip, it resonates with what cancer survivors go to because of the struggle, the fight. If they're there, if while they're fighting and someone gives them hope, they keep pushing. But the hallmark of it was when I got to Paris and now started going back.
Her parents eventually gave their blessing when she told them about the trip, her mother going further with consistent prayers.
They had an idea that I ride a motorcycle, but fully I lied to them that no, I don't ride a motorcycle. It was because she had an idea. I've been riding for 5 years and they never knew. So the first time she saw a video of me on a motorcycle, I said, no, it's for a video shoot. I just didn't want to put fear in her. And that's my mom's reaction. My dad also followed suit. He wasn't in support, but after a while I told him, I've already planned all this. I'm still going to do it. It's better you hear it from me than you hear it from somebody else on social media.
The NIDCOM chairman, Abike Dabiri-Erewa, engrossed by her storytelling, told her how proud she was of her and promised even more support now and on her next trips, admiring her courage and conviction.
We're proud of you, and we will be willing to work with you, partner with you to see how we can support this worthy cause you're doing. So let's know how we can work with you. And it's important that everybody knows that we have a Nigerian woman of courage, of valor, of conviction, who believes, and I like what you said, that your voice. Yes. Sometimes we think women can't do things, but you use your voice to say we can do it. So we celebrate you, we're proud of you, and we'll work with you all the way through. And welcome back home, and we look forward to also being with you on your next trip, your next destination. So welcome, Chibeda, and honestly speaking, I have to say, I actually have goose pimples sitting next to you.
Chibeda wishes that more Nigerians will give towards her cause of raising awareness and funds for cancer treatment. For now, normal life takes over, and that includes a study abroad. That is until her next adventure.
Well, we're all proud of her. Well, Mauritania is a vast northwestern African nation dominated by the Sahara. 90% of land. It's home to the striking Richard structure, that's Eye of the Sahara, and notable as the last country to formally abolish slavery in 1981, though the practice persists, making it a land of stark desert beauty, rich ancient culture and complex modern challenges. That's our Did You Know this afternoon. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Joke Rogers.